Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the R6, which I'll be using in this config here with the 300mm IS Mark 1 with the adapter. And this is sort of an initial sort of thoughts video, so we're going to talk about the camera itself, talk about the spec of the camera, and then we're going to look at some of the photos I've taken with this lens here. Just talk about the things I found about the pros and cons of using a converted lens with this camera. And then I'll go for an overview of what my initial thoughts are and if you should buy one, really. So let's hop in there now, let's look at the spec of the camera and then we'll go from there. So then here we have the R6 body, a little bit bigger than the R7, a little bit chunkier, which is actually quite nice for me. I've got bigger hands and I actually quite enjoy that. I've got the BG R10 grip on here as well, which obviously gives me even more room for my hand along the side, but also gives me a nice area here to hold on to and have all the controls that I personally feel I would need while shooting. You've got your dials here, you've got matching dials top and bottom, everything along here. The only other thing that someone mentioned in the comments when I did my preview video of the R6 was the joystick's really low down compared to where it is on the side here. I've not had a chance to use this and see if that is an issue at all, but I will definitely sort of report back if I do find this joystick being down here a bit of an issue for sure. It has a Digit X full frame sensor, just like the 1DX Mark III, and also most of the mirrorless stuff now that is come out from Canon. That's a 20 megapixel sensor, gives up to 20 frames a second on mirrorless mode or 12 frames a second on mechanical mode. I'm going to personally use this a lot more on mirrorless than I did on the R7. It's got dual pixel AF2, so super sticky AF on there. We're going to show some of the photos that I've taken with this so far, and you'll be able to see how sticky it is on there. You've got IBIS built in, so you've got 5 stops of IBIS inside the body itself. ISO maximum of 102,400, which is actually quite useful. It's the highest ISO camera I've ever owned, so I'm quite looking forward to using this in low light and sort of seeing how we get from there. You've got your 2 card slots, both using high-speed SD cards. I've got the Extreme Pros 300 megabytes per second in here on redundant, so I shoot redundant RAW, and I get about a 64 photo buffer redundant RAW on there. You've got your flip out vari-angle touchscreen, so I can go all the way through, all the way down to the front. You can have it flipped down like this. I tend to shoot with mirrorless with the screen in like this. It allows me to get a bit more battery life, so that's why I do that there. Usually it comes with 1 battery, but obviously I've got the 2 batteries in here because of the battery grip itself. Slide in and out like you do on the 1DX. Really nice screen on here. The only thing I found out is there is a fair amount of blackout on the screen if you're shooting in the mechanical mode, but that won't be an issue as I'll be shooting more in the mirrorless. You've got all your connection points here, so you've got your mic, your headphones, your shutter release, USB and HDMI connections on this side, so you've only got your card slots on this side, and your dials and everything, your ISO change on the top. You've got your on off, you've got your dial to change what mode you want to be in. I tend to shoot in manual, so that's where it's going to live. You've got your start stop for video. I won't be using this camera that much for video, but I might use a bit when I do the review for the R10 eventually as well. You've got a standard hot shoe, so you haven't got the digital hot shoe on here like you have on the Mark II. But overall, for the money, I'm quite looking forward to getting this out and having a play and seeing how we get on. But what we'll do now is we'll show you some of the photos I've taken. I've got 4 examples to show you of how I've got on the first couple of days of shooting with this camera, and then we'll go from there and talk an overview of my findings with the camera so far. So let's move on to that part right now. So the first photo we're going to look at here is a sort of side-on portrait of a dog here, and using the adapted 300mm f Mark 1. You can see the separation is super nice. The colour is really nice as well, really sharp. It did lock onto the eye, which was nice, even though it's a dark eye on this dog, and brought out some nice sort of focus and sharp here at f2.8, and nicely blown out background there on for that one. For picture 2, we've got the dog running towards me, so this is a bit of motion. This was on mirrorless mode, picked up on the eye straight away, tracked the eye really well for most of the run. Again at 2.8, so you can see all the bokeh in the background of the bush in the background there. But nice and sharp, nice colours, a nice overall frozen photo here with a nice high shutter speed that I was able to use because of the weather conditions that we had on the day. Now image 3 is kind of showing the issue as I was having on mirrorless mode, which was if the subject was getting too close to me, it would really struggle keeping a top on the eyes. It started focusing further and further back on the animal. So it was kind of, and this part's not even focused on the tail, it's just focused on the back, upper back of the dog here. I think it was actually focusing on the legs, if I recall, when I was looking through the viewfinder. And I'm not sure if this is primarily more because of the lens I was using being such an old EF lens converted. It can only go so fast, and this is a very fast camera compared to the cameras that lens was launched against. So I don't think it's really anything against the camera on this, more the fact that the lens is older, and I'd like to get a much newer lens on this. I'm looking at potentially even getting the Mark II version of the EF lens, or getting an RF 600mm or an 800mm and redoing the test. So I've got a native RF lens and a newer EF lens, and seeing if this issue persists, and if it is a camera issue or more what I think it is more of a conversion issue. So that's that photo there for you. And the final photo we're going to look at here is a snake photo using the macro lens. Used the autofocus just to try the autofocus on a bit of low light here, and it focused straight away on the eye, which was really nice. Because it's 2.8, only the eye is really in focus, everything else is slightly fading in blur as it goes through. No massive amount of noise though. This was taken, say, fairly low light. It's a dark photo as you can tell, but still nice and sharp, very usable. Maybe pump up the colours a little bit, a bit of brightness up, and it would be a fairly decent photo there. But super impressive so already with its low light capability that I can see from this photo here. Okay, so that's some of the photos I've got from this camera, and sort of talking about. So I think the major issues I had with the electronic shutter is because it is obviously quite fast. It's compared to some of the newer stuff, it's not massively fast, obviously, compared to the R8 and the R6 Mark II at 40 frames a second on mirrorless, but this being 20 and being an old adapted lens. This is the Mark I of the 300mm, so it is a much older lens. Having to communicate through that bridge is obviously, as the subject is getting closer, it's almost confusing. The lens is not quick enough to focus potentially, but in the mechanical mode it does seem to pick up that focus and be able to track it a bit easier, because you're only running at 12 frames per second on a manual shutter going through. So that's one thing I've got to think about when I'm using the camera, is what's the subject doing? Do I need to be in mirrorless? Do I need to be in mechanical? The issue I found with mechanical, which was really driving me nuts, which is why with this camera I'm probably, unlike the R7, going to primarily use it on mirrorless mode, is the blackout. And you see the photos being taken in front of you, and it kind of puts you off almost of taking the photos, because it is slower than what I'm used to with the 1DX Mark II and the R7 on mechanical mode. And you do get this blackout where it does really confuse you, but on the mirrorless it's obviously just that instantaneous blah 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 blah. You don't even see the photo being taken apart from the exterior of the photo flashing at you. I wish you could put a noise on when you're using mirrorless, like on the R7 has a shutter noise on mirrorless mode. This I can't seem to find you can put one on there. If you can put one on, let me know. I have read the manual and have watched a few videos, and no one kind of talks about putting a sound on. I would personally like to have a little bit of a, like the R7, a bit of an electronical noise to remind me that I am pressing down that shutter, because it's so quick. You kind of you can obviously see the outside of the frame when you're looking through, making a sort of motion to show you're taking photos, but it'd be quite nice to have an audible update as well for me personally, just because I'm used to that DSLR side of things where you can audibly hear you're taking the photos. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'll get used to using this in mirrorless. Say this camera, I find myself I'm primarily going to use it on mirrorless, unless it's something that is going to be affected by some form of motion when taking the photos in mirrorless. I might go to first curtain maybe and just use it on that if I'm doing something like I've got an air show coming up soon, or if I'm doing birds in flight, I might go to first curtain instead rather than mirrorless. But we'll test all the modes out, and when I do a more in-depth, longer-term review of this camera, I'll talk about where I found out things. So this is only my first sort of 500, 600 photos on the camera, and we've done some macro work. I've done a bit of outside work stuff running towards me, a little bit of portrait work, and I actually find it quite nice. The photos are super sharp. They're what you would expect from a mirrorless full frame camera, and the fact that I can put a battery grip on the bottom, which is official, and I can use all the buttons on there, makes it a winner for me over the R7 at the moment. But I will do a more in-depth R7 versus R6 video, because you can pick these up second-hand for 1,600 quid, and the R7's 1350, or some people in the UK now are trying to sell them at 1450 if they have stock. So they're not massively far away from each other, so I will do a video on both of those to say, should you buy a second-hand R6 like I have, or should you go and buy a brand new R7? So we'll do that at a later date. If there's anything else you want to see about the R6, anything you want me to review about the R6, then please let me know in the comments down below, and I will look to check that out as well for you. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe, comment and like, and I will catch you guys later on for more content. Thanks for watching. For always, goodbye.